You know, I'm not that little. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. We're going to go ahead and get this thing started. As soon as our DJ let me on in there. Thank you, Mr. DJ. We got a stand in today. Tonight, the DJ gonna save our life, ladies and gentlemen. And we'd like to welcome you to another edition of the Men's Corner. I am Lavelle is my man. I prescribe here, your host, Big Fella 6, Adrian, and I'm your co-host, Faheem. And we'd like to welcome you to the Men's Corner where men talk real, relevant emotions about life. The Men's Corner is powered by DJ Glam and produced by none other than BeeSting Media. Our sponsored site location by reality-based training group, the RBTG, located at 8181 Professional Place, Hyattsville, Maryland. You're looking for an opportunity and a career in armed and unarmed security? Reality-based training group is the place you want to be. You can contact them at 240-714-3813 and ask for Mr. Brown, and he'll take care of your needs there. Well, welcome back, big fella.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, we
back with a new day, new night.
Yeah.
We was up against a lot.
Oh my goodness.
NBA, NFL. Oh man, we up against skating on Wednesday.
Yeah, man, we know
some people can skate backwards but can't skate forward.
Can't skate forward. Technical difficulties, dudes doing what they do, man. But at the end of the day, it's an awesome time, man, to be able to do what we come to do. Bring this thing together. You all know out there how 6 and I carry it. We dive right into a lot of discussions, current events and things of that nature. But we don't just like to talk about current events and stuff of that nature because that's too much like gossiping. We grown men over here. We ain't doing a whole bunch of gossiping. We bring it to you live. 6 had a very interesting, we had a conversation the other day. We was talking about some stuff. And I'll let him go in and bring you into today's topic.
But some queens turned me on to how the numbers were with single households, or who's the custodial parent, not single household, but who's the custodial parent. And I learned the other day that 82.5% were women and 17.5% was men. So men are not even nowhere near the fact of being a custodial parent. You know, so that was an interesting topic that I wanted to touch on and get some feedback from some people, whether it's men or women. You know, maybe you know of some men or women that don't have their kids and maybe should or shouldn't. You know, everybody isn't a parent.
That's right. Yeah.
Sex don't drive that message.
No, you're right. You're right.
So, you know, there's some women that's just not parents, and some men are just not parents.
Yeah. Well, I for one, thank God, because I am, I don't like to say this because my mom and dad was always in my life, but as most families did back in the day, some level of separations and things of that nature took place, and typically when the separation take place, the children normally stay with the mom. Well, back then, when my mom and dad separated, my mom had foresight to allow my brother and I to stay with my father. So my father, and this was in the 70s, raised 2 young men on that W Street Hill in Southeast as what they would call today a single parent. But he wasn't a single parent because my mother was dead. She was, I'm still trying to figure out how she wasn't actually living in a house, but anytime something had to, a beating had to take place, she had some damn house keys. You ain't living in a house, how the hell you got house keys to come in and administer some justice, you know? But that's how the parenting went back then, you know? Okay. And so I can appreciate that. And my father was one of the only men that I knew of on that W Street Hill that was actually would be classified as a single parent and a male raising 2 boys in that household. So, like you said, the numbers today are like 80-something%.
Yeah, 82.
Dominant.
5, all women.
Right, dominant with women, and so that's about, you got about another 12-15% somewhere on that line with men, you know. And I guess it's a tough piece, but, you know, a lot of, I hear it all the time, you know, I'm a single parent. And that, man, that bugs me, Six, because you're not, I can't say that everybody's actually a single parent. If the father is present, if the mother is present, I don't know about being single. You know, you gotta help me out, because you're a single parent.
So
you know, you had to do, somebody gotta help me understand that.
So in a single parent, I mean, like, you can't pop up when school starts and drop off school supplies. That's not a parent. If you're gonna carry the burden of saying that you're part of that kid's life, then you can't just be here part-time or pop up part-time.
Right.
Again, it's like some guys take care of their dogs better than take care of their kids. So you can't have that conversation of saying that you're part of this kid's life, and you don't even take the kid to school. You don't pick the kid up from school. Like, parenting is an all-day job.
Right.
Every other weekend is not parenting. That's babysitting.
Okay.
Yeah, that's giving mom a break, or that's a court-ordered thing. Like, that's not something you did on your own. That's just flat out, when you're every other weekend, you're picking up the kid because that's your weekend.
Right.
That's not parenting. So what happens next weekend if mom's, let's just say hypothetically, she wants to go on a date? You ain't picking up the kid for that date, but at the flip side of it, you don't want to do around your kid. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
You dig?
Nah,
so I'm gonna leave the kid
right
there to try to gate the date, but I don't want to do around my kid. And women do that too.
Yeah.
They don't have that bee around my child. Like no, we don't get to control that.
And when you really look, you're like, what's that really about? I mean, apparently you two as biological parents couldn't get along enough to be in the same environment, the same household. So somebody, ultimately, people don't just stop dating one person and then don't date anybody else. So ultimately, somebody else is going to be in that child's life at some point in time. You know, so what are the ground rules to being I guess you would say a step parent, or before you become a step parent, just being in an environment of a child's life that is actually not your kid? Are there any ground rules that have to go along with that piece, with this single parent?
Well, if you're the king of the house, then there is no ground rules. So you already established your home. So as a man, and it don't necessarily mean who makes the most money. As a man, you're I wouldn't want to use the word control, but however, you're the king of that home, right? You're the man of the house. Right. So if, let's say, they're all women in your household, they shouldn't be taking trash out. Okay, so that makes you the man. Like, I know some 50-year-old dudes don't have a key, but you carry the title as a male. That's how I give it. I don't give you the man title, I give you male. You can have the male anatomy, but that don't make you a man. So
when you say they got the key, they don't have the key.
They don't have. I know some that don't have keys. So, you know, it's like when we was coming up, it's almost like the man had to make most of the money in the household to make him. The man have to make most of the money in order to be in control of the household. Right. It's not about controlling the household. It's about you being the man of the house. Right. A woman shouldn't be wearing boxer briefs and you over there joining the corner with the panties on. Right. That's not a money thing. That's just knowing your role as a man. 2%, 82.5 that went through the court system have their kids are women. And the 17.5 are men. So, and that's not even counting, you know, what didn't make the court. Right. So we already know what that looked like with single parents in the household in our city alone. Right. Yeah. So That's a hell of a topic. We are falling a long way behind with being custodial parents as men.
Yeah, and basically what I was talking about earlier was, I grew up in a household with my father, my mom and dad separated when I was like 8 years old. But my mom had the foresight to basically allow my father, or agree with my father that he would raise me and my brother. And so my father was for all intents and purposes, what they call today, a single parent, raising two boys in Southeast Washington, D.C. And, I just, like I said earlier, I don't like the term single parent, basically because, when you say single parent, then you get a lot of different kind of thought processes with it, especially coming from, when I hear a lot of women say it, it's like, well, I'm a single parent and I don't have no help and all this type of stuff. Well, a single parent means that you got, in my world, you create that child by yourself. You're not a single parent. It's two parents. It's just one that's absent. You are the accessible parent. And I think we had a young man on one of our shows before who was talking about, he said he don't say single parent, he say, what do you say, co-parent?
He's co-parenting because he gets his kid like every week.
Right.
And that's what we were discussing, like every other weekend is not parenting, like you babysitting.
Right. So somebody said the sound is going in and out. Can you all hear us now? What does the sound look like now? Because I'm off of here.
Somebody said we good now.
Okay. So, but I, again, I just got problems with terminology and just saying single parent, but you have more experience at that because, you raised Adrian, what I'm saying, as what they would call a single parent. And so when we left off before the technical glitches, we were trying to get to cohabiting, because most people say they single parents, but if you got a person cohabitating with you, then are you still a single parent? So,
So single parent and custodial parent is two different subjects.
Right.
We're talking about custodial parent. Mm-hmm. All right, that's something that went through courts. So in my case, I'm a custodial parent.
Right.
I went through the courts and fought through that monster case to have my child as the custodial parent.
Right.
They consider me technically a single parent, but do I consider myself that on a 24-hour basis? No, because I have a village.
Okay.
So when you and I came up, they considered it raising a kid.
Right.
You raise a kid today, you raise an animal. So you can't use that term anymore. Like raising now, no, you got to move that to guiding. Mm-hmm. You got to guide a kid at this point in time. You can't raise anymore. Because you see what we're getting in the street, and that was raised, and that's what you do with animals. You raise them.
Right.
So what we have on the streets right now, what the system is trying to fight and all these guns, that's raising.
Okay.
All right, so in the case of like us getting into these court systems and fighting for our rights for our kids, that's where we need to be. Again, we can't take care of dogs better than we take care of our own kids that we enjoyed making at that time. Yeah. Regardless of the relationship that you have with that woman, that can't be the topic or how you interact with that woman now because you pissed. Because you left a kid.
Right.
You can't just keep leaving kids and then you look back and who's getting arrested? Our young black boys.
Yeah.
And who's left in the house? Mama. So you say you don't like the terminology single, but hell, dropping off school supplies make you a single parent. You can't come around once a year or every other weekend or once every 6 months or wait till Shorty make it, now you the dad. Like that don't work.
Right.
Like it's this thing called room and board. that have to be accumulated every day. There's this thing called feeding that have to be done every day. So where's the help for that? And all that don't come in child support.
No, it don't.
You can't say you pay $250 a month and you talking about I pay child support.
Right.
That's a pair of shoes.
Yeah, but on that note, that child support thing, that's a whole different conversation. But real quickly, that's an agreement that was made between the courts and the custodial and the non-custodial parent. And so when the courts come in and put that financial calculator together and say, well, this is all we're asking of that father or that mother to pay, the custodial parent, I don't know if you can really get totally upset about it, because the courts said, based off of some standardized calculation, that this is what a person needs to pay. But my thing is, if we go back to really looking at how did this single parent phenomenon came into existence, I like to always dive back into a little bit of history. When we go back to those wars and things of that nature, when our fathers and grandfathers went off to fight in wars, they had families when they went off to fight in those wars, and they left their families here. Now, the interesting piece is that while the fathers and our grandfathers and all them were fighting in those wars, what type of assistance was coming into the families that they left here in the States while they went to fight all those wars? So if you got a father that got 3 or 4 children, 2 or 3 children, or maybe just 1 child, and he goes off to fight for the United States government, what assistance is that mother or that wife that he left in the States receiving, other than his check that's coming in? What other assistance is she receiving? And back then, our mothers and stuff, grandmothers, all of them didn't work like that. You know what I'm saying? It was tough for them to get jobs.
Oh no, that's a whole nother fight though. Like, we custodial parent, and that women didn't work back then that day.
Right.
Okay. We're talking about 2 people made a kid. Mm-hmm. They didn't have an agreement on who the kid go with. They're both fighting over the kid. We don't win those battles most of the time. One, we stop fighting, or we won't fight.
Mm. You talking about, when you talking about the men? The men. Men, okay.
Like,
okay.
We won't fight the battle because it can get expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can get expensive. In my case, I spent a large amount of money. The other person spent like $300. I'm like, wait a minute.
There's nothing equitable about that.
Right. So, yeah. And in some cases, like, one, we won't fight because we don't put in the mindset of, I don't want to lose that fight in court, and I just spent all this money. So most just walk away. Mm. So if you're not going to spend money to fight in court, at least spend the money on the kid. Or take that time and that money and spend it with the kid. Not just walk away, or not try to even go up against the fight of the battle for the kid. It's like, I've heard it a lot of different things. She ain't nothing, and she can't do X, Y, Z. And there's all those conversations. But what have you done to prevent that? Well,
you know my theory about that, big fella, because we always talk about it. My thing is, look here, man. A lot of you dudes, as far as what you're talking about there, a lot of you dudes, look here. I'm gonna say it real graphically. You hawk spit in that woman. Naked is all outdoors. She wasn't a bitch. She wasn't a hoe. She wasn't a freak. She wasn't none of that. When you went in her nakedly and put that baby up in her,
right.
She was none of those things. And now all of a sudden, y'all not getting along, the baby come, and you don't want to be a father, so you okay with her being from your definition, the single parent, and because you're not actively participating in an equal share of taking care of that child. And it's not because you can't, it's because you refuse to. And then you also refuse to go to court and say, let's get equal billings with this. Let's get joint custody or something, if you feel that passionate about it, let's get joint custody. But to get joint custody requires you to have to be able to prove that you're spending X amount of time. The kid live with you for a certain percentage of time, right?
Right.
A lot of our men, let's keep it 100. A lot of us, man, don't have what it takes to be patient enough to sit and say, well, I got my child 160 days out of the year, and she got the child another 190 or whatever it is. You know. So my thing is, we have to, as you said, we have to take ownership in becoming greater parents when you're not the custodial parent. You got to take ownership of becoming a better parent when you're the non-custodial parent in that case.
Right. So I've asked two guys I know, one some kin to me and one wasn't, and I asked, are you mentally, not financially, but mentally ready? And God forbid that nothing happened to the people. I was just using it as a curve to get where I wanted to go with him or with them with the question. And I asked, were they mentally prepared to take care of their kids if something was to happen to the mom?
And their response?
Without thinking, both said no.
Wow.
So that tells me as men, we're not even mentally prepared to endure the burden of being a parent. However, we're mentally prepared to put semen in someone to make one.
Yeah, yeah.
So you gotta share that responsibility. If both y'all agree to have sex, unprotected sex.
What was the movie that
Ray Charles? Ray Charles was one.
Right, but the one that Denzel played in, was it Fences? I think it was Fences.
It was Fences.
When he played it
Ray Charles and Fences, right.
And he had that baby outside of his marriage. And he said, hey, what we gonna do? He said, look, I gotta take care of this baby. And his wife took care of the baby while he continued.
She died. The mother died giving birth in that movie. Right. Ray Charles found out he was on the road. The backup singer got pregnant. She OD'd. His wife said, "We're gonna send her money." Right. Ray was like, the wife said, "We're gonna send her money." Ray said, "Already do."
Already do. Yeah, I remember that.
Right. That money come out of his check before it even get to him.
Yeah. So he was basically taking care of that responsibility.
Right. So the mentality of then and the mentality now, even though those was movies, but those was true things that were happening. Today, men, well, I don't call them men, I'm sorry, but today's dudes, they're not mentally prepared to take on that responsibility of being parents. So in my case, like I'm guiding a daughter. Right. So it's almost like I can't do what I want to do in my own house unless she can do it. Right. So my private life can't be exposed around her. And then I had to take on this mindset of, if my child can't do it, I can't do it. That's a hard push as a guy because you're used to just being free. Right, right. Now you can't be free anymore. Right. And most of guys can't cut off the freeness. We got to go to the go-go. We got to be seen. We got to be at the black party, the white party. Yeah. That might be your weekend if you every other weekend dude.
Yeah, yeah. And the sad part is how many times you've seen the mother send the child to the father, and then that father takes the child and give him to his mother or his aunt, his sister. Somebody else is watching the child so that that father can go out and have fun instead of sitting there and being a true co-parent.
But that's what guys do though. Like, so if it ain't your weekend, or if she just asks you out of the blue, can you watch Tim tomorrow? Nah, I can't do that, Shaw. I got something to do. Tell me you have nothing to do. You just don't want her to do it. And that's how we are. That's how we're. And what pisses me off, we're around guys that won't hold us accountable.
Yeah.
See, we
say that a lot. Yeah.
Right, we gravitate to people that's cool with what we do and what we say, whether it's right or wrong. We gonna hang around that person because they won't hold us accountable. When you're talking about your kid, like, we all should be holding each other accountable, because now we got to become the village, because no one person should be holding on to that kid, because now the kid don't even have an avenue of different directions of what to do or how to do it.
Right, right.
Everything I do ain't suitable for my daughter. I'm a male, first of all. So how am I going to teach her how to wipe front to back or back to front?
Right.
I know which one is right, right?
Right, right.
I was taught to shake.
Yeah.
So I can't teach my daughter to shake.
Yeah, yeah.
So
no,
then you have women that know how to wipe properly, but then they got a male in the house, and that's that custodial parent, because Slim done stepped off or done whatever he want to do when he want to do it. She can't reach out to him, so now she got to teach him how to shake. Like this thing, like me being like maybe 8, 9 years old, my mom in the park with me, teaching me how to hit a baseball. To this day, at 40, I can't play baseball to save my life.
Right, right.
But that's what she was trying to teach me to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You did?
Because she was there being a part. So, what are some of the causal factors, if we had to really kind of narrow it down? What are some of the causal factors that will not allow for men or a non-custodial parent? Because I don't want to put it all on men, because I've watched you take care of little A. So, I don't want to, and I've seen some men literally take care of their children where the mother ain't nowhere around, or the mother had some issues, whether it was drug related, or she decided to move out of state, or she got a whole new family and just say, hey, you take care of the child, and they just not around. What are some of the causal factors that you think exist that won't allow for a person to just be that complete parent to that child?
Well, you got some women are vindictive as hell. Same as men. So the statements I'm making are not just blanketed towards men. They're blanketed towards women as well, because you have women that have a baby with a guy, knowing that the guy don't want to be with them, and vice versa. Like, guys try to make women pregnant to stay with them. Whoa. But when it's all said and done, and it doesn't work, someone's stuck with the child. And that's the only person that suffers. Like, y'all having fun humping, but when the seed develops and it's hatched and the cord is broke, it's cut, and now youngin got a birth certificate, now we gonna go our separate ways. But we leave something there that's fragile.
So basically, the relationship wasn't really a relationship necessarily. It may have been more of a sleep ship, an entanglement. That we just involved sexually, and one day, okay, oops, the cycle is missed, the child is here, and it's, I don't want no child, don't have a baby. Now here's where some of the rubber meets the road a lot of times. The man don't want to have the child, but it's the woman's body.
But some are forced to have them, because some women die.
Yeah.
I know a few brothers that's like that. They have their kids through the death of the parent.
Right.
So that's a whole nother obstacle to jump. So you gotta deal with the sorrow of the kid of losing their parent, and now you're the only parent. That's a whole different mindset of a man.
Right.
That he has to endure that. So now he got to get himself together and be this parent, because he's the only one left, and he have to deal with the sorrow of not being able to have their mother conversate with them.
Yeah.
So that's when you build that village. Me, I wasn't great at turn my child no motherfucker with. Like, I know you can't teach her nothing, so I ain't no sense of me sending you over there, right? So I had to build a village. I throw a few names. My brother Andre Harrison, I went to Cadoza with. Great dude. He got his kids through that. Juju. Juju kids in the same predicament. Great dad.
Yeah.
Like he just built that bond, and I know you know Coley Cole. Coley Cole say shit him up. So you know it's like things of that nature that, again, as a man, you have to change your mindset and how you move in your thought process, because you can't move like you want to when you are the parent all the time.
The primary, right? When you're the primary custodial parent, you have to do more than just sacrifice a little bit.
Right. That's
you got to sacrifice your life, and for the most part, the statistics say that 82% of the sacrifices are coming by way of women.
Yeah.
And 17%, and probably in that 17% for men, it's probably more so because they run into situations and scenarios like the mom died or is no longer there, or maybe incarcerated or something of that nature, and you're kind of forced or thrust.
Those numbers came from a court system, from men and women fighting over custody
of the children.
Right. Enough of us don't fight as men.
We don't.
Enough of us don't fight.
We don't.
We'll take the easy way out in a lot of things. Like I'm cool with that struggle, because they say pressure bust pipes, but give me the pressure, because I don't want the pipe to bust. It shapes the diamonds. Right, pressure shapes the diamond. So in my case, the pipe didn't bust, and it shaped the diamond. Right, so we don't look at that piece. We look at the first thing we think of, and that's in men or women. Oh, I ain't spending that type of money. Like, that's your kid, though.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna spend money regardless.
You're gonna spend
if you're a parent, you're gonna spend. You're gonna spend when they grown.
Yeah.
At some age, when they become teens, all you are is a ride and $1.
Whoa. You know, and that's true, because if we even understand the development of the child, you know, from infancy through the toddler stage, and that little kid, and then they go into that pre-teenager and that teenage. You know, if you're not intrinsically involved in their everyday lives, they not really concerned about the things I was telling somebody earlier today that we're all blessings from, if those of us that believe in the higher power, we're blessings from a creator. Right. Although we as parents were the vessel or the vessels that created our child, our child is not here to benefit us at all. The child is here to actually create their own pathway and their own destiny. Now, they will watch us to see what we do as parents, to try to shape how they should act as young kids through their young adulthood to become parents. And they will follow us if we're doing it the right way. If we're doing it the wrong way, then for the most part, they'll follow the wrong way too. Who they were.
Well, at the end of the day, they ain't asked to be here.
Exactly.
So regardless who they follow, what they follow, they need to be following both. Because it's like,
well, at least learning from them.
Right. Yeah. So I had this conversation with a brother, and he said he's not dating a woman unless she knows or has a relationship with both parents. Not that they have to be together, but they will have to have a relationship with both of the parents, because he want that woman to understand the man's side and the woman's side. Right. Not just the woman's side. Because like there's no balance. And that's the same thing what we go through. It's almost like when you're being guided by a woman, all you have is the woman's side. So it's almost like most of your life you're chasing the person that guided you. You know, and that's when a woman will come out of her mouth and say, nigga, I ain't your mother. You need to date your mother.
Right.
Because you don't have both sides, because you don't have that dad in your life to be able to tell you, like, son, everything that your mother doing ain't right, or everything that you're receiving from her isn't what you're supposed to have. Yeah. Because there's no balance. And you know, and that goes back to what we was talking about earlier about a man having the mindset, not money, not a place to stay, but just a mindset of just being a parent.
Man, like I said, it's not a whole lot that I can offer from this side of the table as far as being a single parent, but through my experience of my dad, you know, because my dad's mom and father were there, and what was crazy is that when my grandmother and my grandfather separated, the children stayed with my grandfather.
Right, but
you know what I'm saying? So it was
that day and age, but today, right. So we don't have those type of pioneers.
Exactly, but that's what I'm talking about. The fact that when I think back on it, the fact that my grandfather raised the children when my grandmother and him separated, or you know, kept that. My father did pretty much the same thing.
That's the mindset that we need to have today. We need to have
that mindset, bring it in here today and try to bridge that gap.
So, and me, I come up behind you, so I have my uncle. Mm-hmm. My uncle didn't have kids because he said his brothers had enough for him.
Right.
See?
Yeah, a lot of people say that. Right, yeah.
So, but my grandfather, scared to death of him, but I still tried my hand. Mm-hmm. Right, because every day who did I see? My mom.
Yep, right.
So that's what's happening in the household today with the custodial parents of 82.5% of them being women. They have boys in these homes, and you need to have that uncle or that solid friend. You know, again we back at that again, talking about playing with the word love and friends. Mm-hmm. We gotta have that solid friend because you need that friend. Women need friends around them that's not trying to get in the drawers on the strength for the youngin' and to slip up.
Strictly plutonic.
Just need you there to make sure Slim getting what he needs as a man, because I probably ain't teaching the shape well when I'm washing out his drawers and pissy.
Right.
You know, and vice versa.
Or that moment when that child, especially that male child, want to have a peaceful moment to himself, and you busting down the door talking about what you doing or talking about leave the door, and he's trying to explore himself because nobody's teaching him.
Right,
Mom, you can't teach him these things. He don't even want to talk to you about the moment he had that wet dream.
Right.
Mom, what does it mean?
But it's happening both ways, though.
It's happening both ways.
So women go through that too. Like, you know, man, when I found out my child was on her cycle, Slim, I cried.
We talked about it.
I cried, yo, like, because the first thing as a man, you think what? Your kid can what? Get pregnant.
Right.
That's how ignorant we are.
Right. Yeah.
I was ignorant as hell, like, man,
they coming on their cycle ages 8, 9, 10 years old.
Yeah. I'm like, man, hey, man, let me call you back, eh?
Yeah.
And I called Vinny. I think I talked to you.
Yeah.
Vinny busts out laughing at me. But then but I had a plan before I got mine. Mm-hmm. I knew I was going after mine. I knew, like, history repeated itself in my family. My grandfather had my dad, had my mom, and he moved his mother here from Sumter, South Carolina, mm-hmm. to help him with his child. Mm-hmm. So, and he moved his sister. So, in my case, I started reaching out to my cousins.
Right.
You know, like, look, y'all got daughters. Look, I'm gonna need you to help me do shorty hair. To this day, my daughter will not let me touch her hair.
Mm-hmm. you gonna mess that up.
Yeah, so she ain't gonna allow that. So when I reached out to my cousins and I said, look, this is what I'm gonna need from y'all, because I ain't want to burn my mother out with it. Like, that ain't her child. And I was like, I'm getting my ducks in the row because I know where I'm going at.
Right.
I had enough. Then people told me, and this is where we get leery as men. I went and talked to an attorney, and they said, you got to keep $2,500 in the account at all times. So I called the attorney, because I'm reporting stuff now, because I'm going after this thing hard. Mm-hmm, hey, man, the beds ain't made. I got the pictures. Mm-hmm. It's a mess in there. I'm going off. That phone call cost me $225.
I
said, what the? So I'm looking at my bill. And this when we get discouraged as men because we won't spend our type of money. And I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
And we're not taught this. It's almost like when I went to high school, graduate, get a good job. That's all you was taught.
That's all you know.
Right. Yeah. So in that case, I didn't have the mentality or the thought process or the toolages of being a parent. So I had somebody in my ear like, man, you need to go get your kid. Let's go talk to Mike Miller. Mike Miller was like, nah, I'm not going in that courtroom with you. That's two men fighting over a door, fighting over a girl. It's not a good look. He introduced me to Patricia McCartney, white feisty lady, bad to the bone. But she charged me $225 for a phone call. I would never. I'm still pissed about it, but
yeah,
I'm just saying, like, those are the things that we have to get our minds wrapped around as men and trying to be custodial parents. We need more men. If you're not in the home, be a part of your kid's life, not just stepping off.
Right. So basically, what you're talking about, I know you got some people made some comments over there, but what you're talking about is the true definition of Planned Parenthood. Not Planned Parenthood from the company by Margaret Sanger that basically wanted to try to annihilate African American kids and things like that. You're talking about Planned Parenthood, which means that I'm getting ready to have this child who did not ask to come here, and I need to put put a plan together, map out a course of action to take care of this child the best way that I know how to take care of this child, financially, emotionally, physically, fiscally, all of that stuff, you know, psychologically and all that, and be there for that child. And how many people, absent of marriage, how many people do we know can actually raise their hand and say, when you were single, you planned the child that you had?
No, I didn't even do it, because when I didn't do it until I was fed up. Then I started putting a plan in place. I never planned before. Like our other people, they plan before the kids. I'm gonna put this kid in this school.
Right.
We're gonna live in this area. Like our color people can't. We don't think like that. It's like the baby here. Oh shit, gotta start moving.
Right. Yeah. So we wait. We're reactive instead of being proactive. And I'm not saying all. Because there are plenty of our people who would say, yeah, well, we're going to actually, let's have a child, you know. Now, my thing is, what happens with that is, the married couple, see, this is where the waters get muddy. The married couple always say, man, I'm not going to have a child until I get married, the whole 9 yards. I'm glad we did it this way. Yeah, we're not like everybody else. And then that marriage don't work. Right. Now, the single parents that you frown down upon, that you look bad at, you now are that person.
Right.
And so, did you plan to become a single parent when you had a plan to become this parent, this parent of a married household?
Nobody plans to be single.
Right.
Holy matrimony. Long-term relationship, we never look at the fact of it failing. Even when it's failing, we're fighting to keep it.
Right.
You know, so we don't never look at being single or single parents. You know, it's some people that's right now living in households just for the sake of the kids. Unhappy as mother, but they're just there for the sake of the kids.
Just for the sake of kids. And you know what's crazy,
but
man?
Understand this though, hold up. If they're just there for the sake of the kids, that kid know whether they're arguing or not.
Yeah.
See, when I was fighting in court, my daughter was struggling in school, but never struggled in the classroom of life. So I wasn't exposing her to that conversation of what was going on, but these kids carry your genes. They feel what you feel. Without you think you showing them, but you showing them.
Now, I get it. It's great because see, you know, and we always do. We do a lot of self-disclosure on the Men's Corner because that's what it's about. Relevant emotions about life. Right. And you got one child,
Right.
Well, you know, I had 7, you know, and, you know, it got multiple moms. So I understand, and man, let me tell you, I appreciate each one of the mothers for my children. I appreciate, even though at one point I was paying child support for 4 of them at the same time. So when dudes be talking about, man, child support killing, and look, I be honest with you, you can't come to me with that excuse. Because, Chad, I paid for 4 of them at the same time, and I paid child support for 28 consecutive years. One thing that I always said, that Allah was blessing me, because every time I had to go to child support for one, I ended up getting a better job. And so I was being blessed. Now, the only thing that pissed me off with it was I tried to get a second job here or there to make ends meet. Right. Then you go back to court 3 months later and they want to do a modification. And hell, they bring in the income for the second job and then you got to pay more. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm not trying to do no whole bunch of second jobs, but what it hurt was this. Having children by different women. The thing that hurt me more than anything was I was not able to spend the time that I would have loved to have spent with each and every one of them children collectively. You know what I'm saying? Separately, you can do that because you can go here, but then you can leave. You can go here, then you can leave. But collectively, where all of them are together in the same household. My grandfather and grandma on both sides raised 11 and 13 children, respectively, on my paternal and maternal side. And they were all in the same household. So you look at them like, wow, that's incredible. You know, and here I am, like almost like a black sheep, because I got children by different women, and none of them are, you know, collectively in my household. But the one thing I made a promise to myself, and I tell people this all the time, at the age of 25, I made a 50-year-old man decision. And that 50-year-old man decision was to change my way of thinking, change my life, so that I can be here to take care of and protect these children who didn't ask to be here, but more than anything, that as they become adults, they would look at me as a true father and a dad and not a sperm donor.
So why you never went to be that custodial parent?
Well,
out of 7, you ain't think of none?
Well, no, I did. And here's the thing. I wasn't savvy in terms of fighting for the custodial piece as with the knowledge that I had right, you know, to this day as time went on. My thing was trying to fight to keep the child support payments down so that I can collectively take care of all of them and not be in the poorhouse. So it was that piece. And then when you start talking about I don't think I was real mature enough, Six, to be honest with you, to say, you know, although with my oldest, you know, I started with that. I wanted to have him. And when I got rejected from that, I think I kind of said, well, all right, I'm not going to keep fighting this fight. And then sitting in some of the courts and listening to the cases and how the men were being treated, you know, like.
So you got discouraged?
Oh, without question. Without question. Because it was like, the only thing you need to do is come in this joint, pay that money, and be there. It got so bad at one point where, you know, that street mentality kicked in. I said, hey, I tell you what, I told one of my children's mother, I said, you know, I spend a lot of time with him. I'm always there, everything. He don't want for nothing. Because the village, we raised in the village, so the village helps take care of all the children. It ain't just about one parent, but the village. And so I said to her this, I said, you know what, we're going to keep this thing real simple. Since you want me to go down here and pay this child support, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm only going to pay the child support since you want me to do that, because apparently you don't care about me spending the time and doing those things. You just want the money.
And see, that's what I'm not cool with. I don't care who, if it's you or Joe Blow, you can't just be cool with paying child support.
And this is what I'm saying. But you got to understand something, Six. When you young like that, back in those days, look, my youngest son is 26 years old. So my oldest is 37. I'm talking about some 37 years ago and all that. When you young back then, you don't see that. You only see you taking money. So my thing was this.
I get that.
If you taking the money, right, but my thing was this. If you're going to take this money and that's all it's about to you, you don't care for real about me spending the time, then if he gets sick, when he had to go to school, or you acting up in school and all that, do me a favor. Call it a father call down the court, listen to him, just stay with me.
I'm listening.
Stay with me.
I'm listening.
I
pay child support for Adrian.
I got our paths are different, and that's what makes us unique. We're paths are different. But at the end of the day, I'm telling you what my thoughts were back then. Not today. But my thoughts back then were, if I gotta go this route, then I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna go ahead and step off and I'll just pay you the money that you want. And so if he gets sick, if he acting up in school, then call the court and see if they send you a father-like figure to go and handle that situation. Because that was my way of thinking. Until, stay with me. Until I had a conversation with my dad that simply say, that's not how you was raised. And so at the end of the day, no matter how it goes, we still have emotions. Even as a father, you still got emotions about it. So when you know better, you do better. And when somebody, as you always say, when somebody hold you accountable and say, hey, that ain't the way you're supposed to do it, then you make a change. And my dad held me accountable.
Right.
So I was able to make the change because he said, that's not what I did.
That was after the first one.
Right. That's
then it was 6 after that.
Right.
So my question, why not any of them? I asked about one.
But you asked, why did I not go the custody route?
Because I didn't
want to.
Okay.
Yeah, because I didn't want to. And they was out, they was all right with their mother. I didn't have to have the custody. I didn't have a lot of battles and things of that nature. I really didn't. That's why I say I applaud my children's mom.
Right, that's why
I didn't have all that stuff going on where the moms was out there doing a lot of dumb stuff. They were really great mothers. So me going in there talking about I'm gonna take them and bring, look here, it doesn't matter. They was comfortable, they was good in their environment. Academically the kids was doing well. You know, structurally, foundationally they was well. So me going there is basically like trying to interrupt a process. And I'm not gonna do that. But I was bitter about having to pay that money all the time when the thing that pissed me off wasn't the fact, it wasn't really paying the money, Six. It was more about, I can do this without the system being involved.
But the system was involved, or you just paid outside of the system?
No, the system was involved.
For all 7?
No. The system was involved for the ones that I had to pay for. And
how many was that?
I just told you. 4.
So the system was involved
with 4.
3 wasn't.
Right. And
so you almost batting 50%.
Right. And so at the end of the day, you know, sometimes people think they need more financial assistance than what they actually need or what they're receiving from you.
And that's when
they run to the court and say, I want to get more, and the court say, give us this. It's like, well, I was given that or more than that.
I wanted to stay on topic with the custodial piece. That's why I was asking how many was in court and one wasn't. So you're saying 4 was.
Right.
Like, I ain't want to get into like what they was, wasn't enough money.
No, but that's the reality of it. You know,
I get that, but I just wanted to stay on topic with the custodial piece because for me, it was personal. Like, I paid child support before my daughter can open her eyes. So my name was already in the system before my daughter was born, technically. However, she took me off, but I always had a plan of being better than.
Right.
And being better than who? My dad, right? That's who I wanted to be better than because I never had that figure in my life.
Right.
You know, so I knew my grandfather, what his history was, and I didn't do it on the strength of him, I did it on the strength of me. You know, one, she didn't ask to be here. I wasn't with her when she was gave birth, but I knew I wanted to be a part of that kid's life before that kid even made it to this world. And that was my fight. That was my grind to get to that point of going that route, because I'm like, look, every year you're living somewhere else. Every year my kid is in a different school. There's no stability.
Right.
I knew what that was. I went to 4 different high schools in 3 years. So what I could have been if I stayed at Dunbar, right? In the basketball world, technically, right? I'm like, I'm not wasting my time. I'm going over here and I'm gonna play. Right. Yeah. And I went over there and I played. Right. But I left there and I left there and I left there. And I knew what that did to me as a kid, so I didn't want the same for mine. And that's why I pushed that narrative of fighting that court system. You know.
And that was the right. Let me tell you something, man. It was the right thing to do. It was a stand-up thing to do. It was the manly thing to do, because you seen the alternative. If you don't fight for her, then who the hell will?
Right, and that's what I think we need to get that information out there for our guys. Like, it's not that hard of a fight. Like, we get discouraged. It's just like buying a house. 30 years, we run from that. Right. But we don't think we got to pay 30 years to live.
30 years to live. That's right. That's right.
And it's the same thing with your kid. We hear court system and we don't win, and that's not true. That's all we hear is the bad stories. We don't hear the good stories.
Right. And you win. You're absolutely right. You win when you when you let the kids know that you will fight for them. Right. So that there's always a win. But my thing is, I guess, wrapping this up is this. You know, there are a lot of different ways of parenting. We know a lot of the right ways. We can see the wrong way. And so I think that the way that you measure how great you've been or good you've been as a parent lies in how your children may parent. Right. Because they will follow your pattern. They typically say, you know what, my dad, either he did this or he didn't do that. That's why I say I became the parent that I was, not because of, but in some cases in spite of. Right. And that's the difference with a whole lot of this stuff. So, you know, again, man, I applaud all of the single parents out there, whether you're a woman, man, you know, I applaud you, because it takes a lot to have to deal with the child each and every day, regardless of what's going on. Those late night earaches, the late night my stomach hurt, the late night I got to keep running back for the bathroom. So I applaud you all, and man, you've done an outstanding job in landing jobs. And again, another segment from the Men's Corner, where men talk real, relevant emotions about life. And y'all know me and Six don't have no problem. We put ourselves out there, we talk about us, and we keep it going. You know, so.
And I appreciate you guys for tuning in and sticking with us. And we see y'all next week on Tuesday. We ain't gonna hold you no more. See you next Tuesday. And keep following.